Well, hello, this is Miss Heard with Miss Heard Song Lyrics. Today is Season 4, Episode 181, doing our first ever The Motels. Miss Heard Song Lyric is, "Only the lonely get laid." And then the correct lyrics is, "Only the lonely can play." Pretty close. Might be about getting laid, who knows? So I love the song. I often sing it when I can with a local live band karaoke, exactly what it sounds like you sing with the live band. And it's such a beautiful song. So let's talk about the song, the lead singer, how they were formed, the behind the scenes of this song, and many more items that I had no idea until I started doing research on it. So let's begin. Only the Lonely is a song by American new wave band called the Motels, released back in 1982 as the first single from their first, or actually third studio album called All for One. So 82, my gosh, that's what, 41 years ago already? Wow. With the help of their popular music video on MTV, which also came out around that time, it debuted at a number 90 on the US Billboard Hot 100 back on April 24th, 1982. And then because of the airplay of that video, it will ultimately climb to number 9 on July 17th of 1982 of that year, where it spent 4 weeks in that position. On the US Cashbox Top 100, it performed a little bit better, peaking at number 8 for 2 weeks. Who are the Motels? Well, it's an American new wave band from Berkeley, California. They're best known for their singles Only the Lonely, and I totally forgot about the second one that was also a hit, Suddenly Last Summer. Suddenly Last Summer, each of which peaked at number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 in both 1982 and 1983. Martha Davis is the lead singer, and she actually reformed the version of the band, and they did used to call themselves the Motels featuring Martha Davis in 1998 and toured under that name with many different lineups of their musicians. Then in 2013, the band was renamed again with now the permanent name of Martha Davis and the Motels. And this band is touring the world with a lineup of musicians that have been playing with Davis for over 10 years, even longer than the original Motels. That's interesting. So who is Martha Davis? She was born Martha Emily Davis back on January 19th, 1951. She's an American rock and new wave singer-songwriter from Berkeley. She's also famous for fronting the band The Motels, but also made several solo albums, contributed many songs to motion pictures. She's been on television and worked on stage with Teatro Zinzani. So very, very, very talented lady. So in 1971, while residing in Berkeley, Davis was asked to join the Warfield Foxes, even though Davis has been credited as being a founder. She was actually invited to sing for the band by her friend Elisa Brenes. She was a single mother at that time, and so she would often have to bring her daughters with her to rehearsals. In 1973, Davis's father died due to an illness, and she relied on her adopted older sister Janet for support. By 1975, Davis had to leave behind her family and home in Berkeley so that the Warfield Foxes could launch their musical career in LA. You know, you had to do a lot of touring. There was no online stuff to be found, so you had to go where the people were. The group's name slowly morphed into the Motels after being inspired by the motor inns that they passed along Santa Monica Boulevard, which I can imagine if they're on the road that much, they're seeing many motels. The band encountered mixed success, as it was a prerequisite that a band had to belong to a label in order for them to perform at music venues. That was, again, before now, where you can be an artist and you don't need a music label. You can put your stuff on YouTube or any of the social media sites and be discovered there, or not be discovered, just keep doing your thing and have your fans pay you directly. So totally different time. The Motels resided in Echo Park, and Davis began her first significant romance since her marriage with bandmate Dean Chamberlain. He was guitarist at that time, but it ended in 1977 when Chamberlain left the Motels, and then Davis used the breakup as inspiration for her song Total Control. Again, write what you know, right? So she went through a breakup, wrote a song about it. After changing band members in 1978, the lineup now included Davis with lead vocals guitar, a Jeff Gerard guitarist, I'm assuming a brother, named Marty Gerard, keyboard saxophone, Michael Goodrow bass, and Brian Glasscock on drums. On May 12, 1979, the Motels finally signed with Capitol Records, and the group's first album, Motels, from 1979, produced by John Carter, was released in the fall of that same year. Then the 80s hit, and this was not only pivotal for Davis's rising music success, but also her health crisis. So she battled cancer in 84 and received surgical treatment for it. She also reformed the group into a 1980s new wave band that created 5 albums produced by Capitol Records. The Motel's second album, called Careful in 1980, also produced by Carter, was released on June 15, 1980. Now, by the end of 1981, lead guitarist Tim McGovern, who had replaced Jeff Gerard, eventually departed and ended this 4-year romantic relationship with Davis, culminating in a bitter power struggle on this part. She must have a thing for guitarists. This is guitarist number 2 she dated. Then the Motels hired producer Val Garay as the group's manager, who also did production duties on the band's third album, All for One, which was released on April 6, 1982. The band's albums Little Robbers and Shock, produced by Richie Zito, were released in 83 and 85. And then Davis became romantically involved with the band's guitarist for a third time, a Kevin McCormick, with whom she co-wrote the Motel song I Love You. Although All for One and Little Robbers produced hits, the Motels reached their lowest point. As Davis said about their success following the song Only the Lonely, quote unquote, even with that song, it was the first time we had a hit. It definitely was not what I've envisioned for myself. And then as time goes on, you get a hit. So they say, oh, I guess this is working. That's what we're supposed to be doing. It became more and more in that direction, MOR, which is middle of the road. So around the time Davis had stated in interviews that she often invested her own money into the band, yet although the Motels had a familial-like bond, she had to, or she felt like she needed to, fire all the band members. Yikes. By the 1987 album Policy, which was supposed to be another Motels album, it ended up being Davis's first solo album and included the singles Don't Tell Me the Time, Tell It to the Moon, and Don't Ask Out Loud. Policy, unfortunately, was not well received, and Davis later stated that the album songs, one which was penned by famous songwriter Diane Warren, were a mismatch for her style. Then by 1989, she asked to be released from Capitol Records' contract. While Davis was partially retired from producing music afterwards, she still has a small part in the movie Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, so I need to check that out and find her in that. So where's Martha today? Well, I found an article by a Geraldine Jordan that was dated on Wednesday, February 5th, 2020. It's about almost, it's 3 years ago already, titled The Motels, Martha Davis on Surviving the 80s, the Subconscious Art of Songwriting, and the Tragic Side of Motherhood. It states, quote unquote, in this article, that she lives on a 72-acre farm outside of Portland, Oregon, where she cares for alpacas, a squad of dogs, and chickens, one of which, named Ruthie, has found refuge indoors to escape her natural sexual predators. There seems to be a theme here, because episode 180 last week, when I did that, I shared that the lead singer Tommy Heath from Tommy Two Tone also is living somewhere in Portland, Oregon, and that's where I live. So there must be something to musicians of the 80s finding refuge in Portland, Oregon. How about that? Back to the article, Martha had unfortunately shared that she had lost her older daughter Maria to fentanyl overdose and is estranged from her youngest daughter, and per the article says, quote unquote, the record's opener punchline addresses Davis's relationship with her youngest daughter Patricia, with whom she is no longer in contact with. I've basically lost both of my daughters, she says. It breaks me. Oh man, that's pretty hard. Sending Martha a virtual hug somewhere in Portland, Oregon. We love you. We love this song, and want to talk a little bit more about it in the video too, because it has a very iconic look. So a little about the song. The background about it is it said in many articles online that the Motels initially recorded darker pieces for their anticipated third studio album. However, with the exception of a reworked Only the Lonely, the rest of the songs were shelved. The unreleased songs were eventually featured on a 2011 album called Apocalypso. Lead singer Martha Davis wrote Only the Lonely on a guitar that was given to her by her late father. He was an administrator at the University of California, Berkeley, who found the instrument in Styles Hall on the campus. She explained the song's inspiration in an interview with Beyond Race magazine, quote unquote. It's a song about empty success. It came about while the Motels were experiencing critical acclaim, traveling the world, riding in limos. Yet I was probably as sad as I'd ever been. I was in a horrible relationship and had not yet recovered from my parents' death. The contradiction of these two worlds was where Only the Lonely lived, bittersweet. Oh, now knowing about that, now that I'll hear that song again or sing it, it will have a different meaning for me. In a 2019 interview, she contrasted the song's development process with her later hit Suddenly last summer. She says, Those two songs couldn't be more opposite, she says. With Only the Lonely, I picked my guitar and the tune was sitting there as it wrote itself. I played Only the Lonely, bada boom, bada boom. So just like I've shared with other misheard song lyrics, some of these hits just happen, like written in 17 minutes or what have you. And it's like the song was waiting for them to write it and sing it. Let's talk about the music video. If you go on YouTube, you can find it. It was actually released on YouTube 13 years ago, back on March 12th of 2009, and it has a whopping 11.7 million views. That's 11.7 million views. I probably contributed about 100 of those views. It's iconic. It starts out with a painted face of Martha, and she almost at first looks like Patty Smythe, because I get confused. They almost look the same because they're brunettes, and Patty Smythe had her famous warrior, makeup too. It's iconic 80s with lead singer Davis dressed up almost like in a 1950s style with black dress. She reminds me of the infamous Black Dahlia. If you don't know who the Black Dahlia is, Google it and you'll find out about that true crime about that wannabe actress. Had the same kind of look and feel with what she was dressed as. And it says here, this vintage style video, she pretends to be a socialite who is frequenting a bar at this posh hotel. And eventually, one solitary Davis becomes overwhelmed by the jubilation of an increasingly unstable crowd. I mean, one man kisses her in the crowd. She runs off, takes off her hat, and then the wind comes out of nowhere, and tables are turned over and drinks are toned over. It's crazy, but watch it. It is a striking video. The video actually earned the award Best Performance in a Music Video at the 1982 American Music Awards, so won that. The music video for Only the Lonely was actually directed by an Australian filmmaker by the name of Russell Mulcahy. So I looked up Russell. There's a lot of stuff about him. He's not only from Australia, of course, but his style is pretty much known for his fast cuts, tracking shots, and use of glowing lights, neo-noir lighting, wind-blown drapery, and fans, which we do see in this video. He directed music videos in the 1980s. He also directed the famous Turning Japanese song by the Vapors in 1980, and the most famous, his landmark video for the Bugles, I think it's Buggles. Video Killed the Radio Star. Video Killed the Radio Star from 1979, which became the first music video ever played on MTV in 1981. So, wow, iconic. Mulcahy recalled, quote unquote, nobody knew the impact that the video would have and how timely it was when we were shooting it. We went into the video with no concept of what it was going to do. It was a one-day shoot. I just had the idea of being set in a strange laboratory with a girl coming down a tube on a wire. He was also one of the leading directors in the field of MTV music videos. In 1980, he joined Alexi Godfrey, Scott Mulaney, Brian Grant, and David Millay to form the video company called MGMM. He also had notable collaborations with famous folks like, Duran Duran, especially Hungry Like the Wolf. He did Kim Carnes, I think Betty Davis Eyes, Ice House. Oh, I love Ice House. I have them on a mixtape somewhere. Electric Blue. Was that Ice House? Maybe not. Spandau Ballet, Fleetwood Mac's Gypsy, 1982. Billy Joel, Allentown, and A Matter of Trust. Ooh, good one. It's a Matter of Trust. Bonnie Tyler's famous Total Eclipse of the Heart, 1983. Of course, the Motels. Rod Stewart's Young Turks in 1981, and Elton John. He actually, in Elton John's 1983 video, has a cameo appearance in his video I'm Still Standing by Elton John that he also directed. So a lot of music videos that he was known for and attached to in the 80s. Mulcahy also recalled, when people were first asking me to do videos, there was never a need or a request for concept. They would just send me a cassette of the song. Yes, he said cassette. I'd listen to it with my eyes closed, come up with some ideas, and write something down. We'd shoot the video the next day or 2 days later. It really was just grab what you can and do it, and it worked. He also worked in television since the early 90s and directed the films Razorback in 1984, Highlander in 1986, that's awesome, and then Resident Evil Extinction in 2007. So there you go. A little bit more about the video concept, who was behind the concept, no wonder. And, the sadness in the lead singer Martha's life. And I hope she finds solitude in her farm that she lives at with her many fur babies. And I just want her to know, if she's listening to this episode, we would love to talk to you. We love you. We love the Motels. And you're not alone. And so hopefully, if any of you that are listening, if you know her, let her know that we are thinking about her. If you have any great suggestions, like this misheard song lyric of the Motels or any others, please share it at misheard, that's MISSHEARD songs at gmail.com. Or you can DM us or direct message us, as the youngins would say, in our social media sites, just like Facebook, Twitter, Insta. We'd love to hear from you. Till then, keep singing those songs wrong. Bye.